Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, we've been on a roll lately. My goodness, we've been talking about some really juicy, great conversations about emotional intelligence, leadership skills, how to improve the culture at work. And I think one of the secret ingredients that, let's be real, is not so secret anymore because of my special guest today is empathy. That is a skill I want to talk about and simplify today. And more importantly, how to practice empathy without burning out. So I'd like to introduce you my special guest. His name is Joseph Cope, and he's in fact the empathy guy. He's built a reputation around redefining empathy as a fierce, practical leadership skill. This foundational belief has fueled his journey from award-winning educator to highly sought-after speaker. And it's what keeps his work rooted in presence, curiosity, and curious, courageous human connection. His mission is absolutely clear: create space for people to choose growth, first for themselves and then for each other. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Joseph Cope. Hey, Joseph.
Mary, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited about today's conversation.
I am too. I love simplifying things that I'm passionate about as well. There's sometimes I will simplify very complex topics that maybe I'm the total, beginner at. But this one's special to me because I feel like empathy is a buzzword that gets thrown on a tumbler at your local grocery store or department store as yeah, that's a thing we should have. And we put it on our tote bag. But what is it really to you?
I'm so glad that you said it's something that we have and we should have.
Yeah.
Because, Mary, everyone does have it. Mm-hmm. We're wired as human beings to connect. And when we are wired to connect, that means that something within our nature is empathic. Yeah. And so the first thing to understand about empathy is that there's a difference between your empathic nature, which is what you are born with, and the implementation of empathy as a skill with intention. So yes, it does get thrown on the tumbler at the grocery store where everybody says, we all need more of it. We should be using it. Gosh, the world needs more empathy. The hard part about everyone needs more empathy is what are we doing to implement it with intention in the lives that we are living every single day?
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I still get flipped off in traffic and people still don't return shopping carts to where they're supposed to go. And, I had somebody roll their eyes at me literally last weekend when I was just simply went up to her family and go, is this seat taken? It's wild how much empathy is actually desperately needed right now. And I fear, maybe we'll go into this a little bit later, it's because so many of us are so protective right now. We're just such porcupines traversing out in the world. And of course, we're so prickly to one another.
We're prickly because we're isolated. I mean, think about it. How many of your guests on this podcast have somehow referenced the isolation that has taken place within society within the last 5, 10, 20, 40 years, yes. Right? The need for human connection has never been greater. The reality of human connection, authentic human connection, has never been lower. And so when we talk about the need for empathy, it's like we all know that we need it. We just can't put the words or the actions to why we need it, what we need it for, and what the outcome is going to be if we can implement it back into society.
For sure. And I feel like at this point is where I really need you to simplify 3 keywords. What is the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion? Let's go there first.
So good. So good. So you defined those as differences. What's the difference between sympathy, empathy, and compassion? Let's reframe those 3 words. Everyone is born with an empathic nature. We've already talked about that. But when your empathic nature is the only thing that you have to draw on in challenging moments, you either become over empathic. And when you become over empathic too much and your heart gets burned, you become under empathic. And when your over empathic nature is what kicks in, your response ends up being more sympathy than skilled empathy. The space that you create is more, I'm here for you. What can I do? How can I support you? How can I? That's sympathy. Empathy is, can I create the space for you to see the value of change for yourself? Can I sit here alongside you and have you recognize I'm not here to do anything for you, but we will sit in this space together so that you can see the value of change for yourself. And the result of that kind of interaction is authentic compassion. Compassion is not just, I feel bad for you. No, no, no. That's being nice. Compassion and kindness are in that family of words that, when interacted with in a way that goes beyond the surface, people feel that. I really believe, Mary, that's what Maya Angelou is talking about when she says people forget what you said, what you did. They remember how you made them feel. And sympathy issues in this feeling of victimhood, icky, thanks but no thanks. Authentic, fierce empathy issues in this level of compassion that's unspoken. It's unspoken. It's like you don't have to try to demonstrate compassion. Compassion is that result of what takes place within that space that you've created.
I think that's so beautiful. And I love the way that you frame that in particular. And that's something I'm going to chew on for the weeks to come. Because I also think about pity and sympathy, especially since we both live in the southern states, as bless your heart, like tap you on the head, bless your heart. No adult, and quite frankly, no child wants to receive that, you guys. But we
No.
do it in spoken and unspoken ways all the time.
Oh, okay. You ready to go deep, Mary?
Let's do
This
it.
is unscripted. Why do you think that is? I mean, when we think about why is pity the first line of defense, give me your like 15, 20-second thought, and then let's riff, because I'd love to hear what you think, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I think it's a fear response. I think it is protection, because if I can just pat you on the head and send you on your way, I don't have to do anything. I think that's genuinely, that sounded really cynical, but I think that's genuinely the human response there.
I love that you said it's the fear base. Then let's go one level deeper and let's get nuanced. Why is it a fear base? Here's where we're going to go deep. I think that most humans give pity because their unconscious response is that they want someone to save them, so they're going to try to do it for somebody else. We don't know that we need empathy because we haven't had enough humans in our life create the space for us. So the only response that we know how to give subconsciously is pity, because we've never experienced empathy.
And I think that that's really why I phrased the episode title and topic for us today as I did, because I think most people approach empathy with not the full scope of what it actually is. You see empathy and you go, oh, well, if I am empathetic to others at work, they're going to take from me, and I'm going to get burnt out. So many people really do, I think, have a good heart and want to be empathetic at work, but they really worry about being taken advantage or drained of their energy. So, Joseph, let's go there. Tell me, what does healthy, sustainable empathy actually look like in practice at work?
Yes. So I love that in this question you use the word sustainable. Sustainable means it sustains over time. And if something is going to be sustainable, at a certain point, we can't think about it as sustainable. It has to become a habit.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about it. If you're trying to implement empathy for the first time as a skill, you're likely going to fail because it's a brand new skill that you're implementing with intention. I mean, listen, my son is a high level golfer. He's playing for a state championship caliber team on his varsity high school here at one of the largest high schools in Texas. When he started playing golf, he was worried about hitting the ball. But after rep after rep after rep at the driving range, he doesn't worry about hitting the ball anymore. He's wondering about how much can he curve the ball? At what level velocity is the ball coming off the club face, right? He's got this super in tune level of intention in his skill. So when we talk about implementing with sustainability, the first thing that we as leaders who are trying to get into this space, if we're going to simplify it down, the first thing that I would tell our audience is go through 30 reps and expect to fail the first 30 times. Yeah. But be reflective in your failure, because the behavioral gurus out there, the habits will tell you it takes between 30 and 66. Don't even think about saying that this doesn't work until you've hit your 30th time. And later in this episode, we're going to talk about what does it take with intention. But the very first thing, if you're going to be reflective going into this, is recognize the first time it's not a silver bullet. The fifth time, you're still gonna feel icky yourself afterwards. You're gonna be more self-conscious about you, about did that work? Did that make space? Am I worried about, just get yourself through the reps, and let's talk about how to get through the reps without killing yourself about it first.
And I feel like this is so highly applicable to people leaders, people who have direct reports that they manage. They hopefully will one day learn and upskill into coaching and mentoring as well. Because I feel like those are level 2 and level 3 to being a great people leader, is learning those skills and the differentiation between the two. But I also think that empathy is a skill that can be practiced. It's a muscle that can be trained and finessed over time with coworkers, people you don't manage, people who are cross-functional with you, but you work on a project with together. People show up to work with so much stuff, right? Spoken and unspoken. And these kinds of skills really help you be someone who is reliable, high trust, high respect as well, 2 ways. When you can really practice the skill, flub it up a few thousand times, but then get better over time, right?
Yes, 110% agree, Mary. One of the most important, I would say, variables in empathy, whether or not you can implement empathy with intention, is what do you do with your time and the humans before you need empathy?
Yeah.
Like you just shared, like, how can I make it with my coworkers? How can I do it with, but if you don't have a currency to draw from with the humans that you're interacting with, then in challenging moments, your empathy doesn't only feel like sympathy. Gosh, sometimes it feels manipulative.
And performative.
And performative. Right? And transactional. And transactional. Sure. Like, we are just having this conversation so that you can do what you need to do, and let's get you through this. That's not empathy. That you can feel the level of inauthenticity in those conversations. Yeah. So I think the piece that we're missing in this conversation around empathy is, what's the pre-work that you're doing? What is the effort, that intention that you're willing to engage in with some of your most challenging humans in your life? I mean, maybe this is not a bad time to just tell a short story about because I come from a background of education, working with teenagers, working with middle school teenagers, and nobody wants independence more than teenagers. And the story that I love to share is, a couple of years into teaching, I was on hallway duty, and this kid comes just running down the hallway like you're not supposed to do, right? And I stopped the kid. I'm like, whoa, stop! Like, come on over here. And of course, the kid's response is, "What? I didn't do anything." Right? Like classic middle school, guilty, but off-putting, not taking responsibility for it. And I looked at the kid and I was like, "Look, I don't even know your name, bud. I don't even know your name. But I'm going to ask, how many doors and adults are there between me and your next class?" And he looks down the hall. He's like 10. And I said, "Every single one of those adults wants to call you out. So what's it going to take for you to get from here to there without getting called out?" And he stopped and he was like, I guess I never thought. I mean, this is a teenage kid. I guess I never thought about it like that. And he looks at me and he goes, "Thanks." But how many times can we offer a way for people to walk down their hallway a different way so that it matches the greater good?
Yeah.
And what are we willing to do to engage in the before the challenging moment? And those pieces, and you know what? That same kid, every time I was on hallway duty for the rest of the year, that same came saying, he makes eye contact with me. He doesn't even say what's up, but he gives me a head nod, and we know exactly what's underneath the unspoken.
Yes.
I mean, think about all of the opportunities that we have to build that currency with the people who are the most challenging for us, so that when we look at them or we stop by their office or we just knock on their door and just say, "Hey, just checking in," it means something. It's not just a pity. It's not a sympathy, or it's not a "would you get your stuff done" knock, check in.
It's a touch point. It's a human touch point. And so many times we forget that that is probably the most important thing you can do as a leader, as a manager, as a boss. I'm a firm believer that anybody who manages teams, people, 1 to 1,000 people, your primary job is to remove roadblocks and challenges and create resources for your people so that they can be equipped and empowered to do the very best work of their life. That's it. And that requires empathy, because it requires seeing not what's the fire drill right now on your desk. It's having foresight to see what's all the way down the hall, a week, a quarter, a year from now, what am I going to need to do to remove the roadblocks so that people can do their best work?
And I would even piggyback on that. I love that you mentioned we have to be able to see down the road. We have to know as a leader where we're going and where we're moving towards. But we have to also identify the humans who are working with us. And in education, we would call this scaffolding, which means different students have different needs. And there would be some people in your organization where they're just there and it all matches and it flows. And all you have to do is say, "Hey," and they're like, "Oh, he loves me." Right? And then there's other people you say, "Hey," and they're like, "What are you talking about? Why are you talking to me?" And there's other people you're like, "Hey, how was your weekend?" "Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me.
What do you want?
What do you want? What are you trying to get out of me?" Yeah. And so being able to identify certain of our employees or certain of our team members who have differentiating needs, and then investing with intention in currency that matters to them.
I feel like that's the answer to my next question, but let's go a little bit deeper and really peel this onion back. So, you've got a team that report to you, and you notice when their emotions run high because of either triggers at work or maybe things that are happening in their home life. What's a practical way that you as a leader or a manager can respond with empathy and still hold your boundary or expectation?
The first step always in empathy is the power of a pause. Because when 911 is called, Mary, they don't call first reactors. They call first responders. And a first responder responds with intention and assesses the situation right away. In those challenging moments where somebody reacts with big emotion, whether it's blow up or shut down or walk away, or that amygdala is kicked off and fight, flight, or freeze is intact, If we're not aware that that's what took place, our mirroring neurons kick in and our reactions begin to react to their reactions. And now we've got two middle school kids yelling at each other over the cafeteria table. So the moment that we see that reaction is taking place, the most powerful thing is to just hit pause and then just ask ourselves, how can I connect with this human? And how can I hold myself accountable to my own values in this moment? Because my values are what make me the leader, the most effective human leader in this moment. And if I'm going to be the leader that this person needs to create space for them to see the value of change for themselves, I have to be the mirror so that their mirroring neurons give me a chance to let them see who they are in this moment. And if in that moment your mirroring doesn't affect them because of all the things that are going on with them, the next step is to keep that pause button held and use a phrase like this. This sounds important to you. I want to make sure I'm at my best for you. Can you give me an hour so that I can process what you're saying? Can you give me the night so that I can process what you're saying? If I have questions in the morning, I will come back to you, but I want to be able to listen with intention to what is taking place.
That's beautiful. And that gives you a literal script, you guys, that in those moments when things get super flared up and you are your 12-year-old self at the cafeteria table about to throw down with your words or your motions, to extend that pause, extend grace, right?
Yes.
For both of you. I love that so much. And I know that your time as a middle school educator has really helped you as a speaker and an educator, because it is so true. A lot of corporate America does feel like middle school. My goodness, Joseph, like when you told me that, my brain was like, how is that so right? Because it is.
I was just talking to a friend this morning, Mary. I said, my friend was telling me, she goes, yeah, I listen to NPR for a little while and then I move on to something else. And I said, I'm exactly the same way. I listen to the news until my intuition says, these are all big kids. And you have to be able to maintain control of what you can control. And the moment that my soul says that's enough, I listen to it, because ultimately at all levels, dysregulated adults act just like children. Whether you're 2 years old or you're 16 years old, there's some level of who we are that when we get triggered, gosh, it just comes out and we can't even help it.
Yeah, it's a dumpster fire of just vomited out onto the conference room table. And then it's so hard to bring it back up, because it's all out. It's everywhere, right?
It's there. It's all out in the open.
But again, I think it comes back to, Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours. You have to put 10,000 hours into something to master that skill, right? And so there is grace in learning as a leader and again, figuring out where your boundaries lie. And I think that what I hear and what you're saying so far is empathy is not fixing other people. It's holding space for people so that they can come to the solution themselves, right?
Yes. And I'm going to give you a little bit of, we're going to take a word and we're going to shift a word that you just said. Okay. You said the word holding space. I had a coach a while ago say, Joseph, what does it mean to hold space? Because if you're talking about implementing a skill, you cannot physically hold space. But then he said, but you can create space.
Yeah.
And the difference, the nuance might just be words, but when we're talking about intention, let's move away from the idea of just holding space as a beautiful thing to say, as something that we just say because it sounds good and because it's what's in the space of energy. And don't get me wrong, that I'm all into holding space when that's what's appropriate. But listen, corporate America looks at you when you say hold space, it's wooey, it's feeling. But what if I said in this moment, What I'd like to do is I'd like to create the space for you to be heard.
Yeah.
Think about the difference in that, and I'd like to hold space. Hold space means I have something that I'm holding that I'd like to invite you into.
That you can withhold as well.
That you can also withhold, right?
Mm.
Create means there was nothing before, but now we're going to create something so that you can feel safe to be yourself. And I'm just going to be here alongside with you in this space.
And so I'm thinking about my most cynical friend right now in my mind. And he is saying this, yeah, but Joseph, how do you balance empathy with accountability when someone on your team keeps missing the mark? They keep showing up late. They keep, missing deadlines. What do you do then?
What do you do comes back to one of the questions that you asked before. And I'm going to give a similar answer, which is, what are you doing before you have to have the challenging moment so that you've collected currency? Because if you don't spend in somebody's currency, then what you are initiating without knowing it is a reaction of fight, flight, or freeze. And they are going to get defensive if you come across as you must, thou shalt. Why can't you just? You've turned yourself into a parent, and you think about that 13-year-old boy who's digging his heels in and saying no, that 13-year-old girl who's rolling her eyes at you. And then they just, the kid will say, I'm done with it. And they ghost and they walk away. They slam their door. They go back to their office. So the answer is not in that moment. The answer is, what are you willing to do so that behavior doesn't happen again? So let's play this out. Give me a behavior that your cynical friend would say, yeah, but they're always doing this. Let's play this out in real time.
Showing up 15 minutes late every morning.
Showing up 15 minutes late. Now, if showing up 15 minutes late is the behavior that I want to change, and I say to you, just get here 15 minutes. And then I say, okay, well, if it's not working for you, what's worked for me? And then I'll go up and I'll try and I'll say, well, have you ever tried to, set your alarm clock 15 minutes earlier? Or they'll look at you and be like, yeah. So maybe they'll try to set their alarm clock 15 minutes earlier, but when that doesn't work, whose suggestion was it? It was yours. So there's no investment in that. What if they showed up 15 minutes late and you didn't say something? Okay. The next day, you go into their office, you go to their cubicle, it's Friday, and you just ask them, hey, what are you doing this weekend? Just making sure that things are okay. Are you going to have enough time to get the refresh that you need this weekend? I know it's been a long week.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Monday, you follow up. How was your weekend? You told me that your son had a soccer game this weekend. How did he do? Were they able to get the championship together? See, you're just investing in things. You're investing in what's going on. So throughout the week, as you're now don't be overbearing about it. We're not going to become matriarchal, patriarchal. You're not their parent, but it's a touch point, right? It is a touch point. In those touch points, as those touch points increase, vulnerability has a way of coming out. And when that vulnerability comes out, those stories start to get told. And in those stories that start to get told, that is where you as the leader, and this is the key here, Mary, you as the leader start listening with intention to where they've been able to demonstrate the values that you want in the workplace outside of the workplace. Think about it. Every organization has those values that are up on the wall that nobody looks at.
Totally.
And every leader is tasked with hold our people accountable to our ethics code, hold our people accountable to the mission statement, hold our people accountable to whatever's out there. But how many times does it actually become part of something that we have conversations about?
Right. Like close your eyes and tell us your core values right now. I would bet 9 out of 10 people have no clue what they are.
Have no clue. But what if you could actually bring back opportunities with currency that matters to those core values? So if one of the core values of your organization is integrity, we're not going to be parenty or teachery about it, right? but we're going to bring those to the forefront in our conversations once we've collected currency with our most challenging people. So that same person who shows up 15 minutes late every single time, right? Now you've established a rapport with the person. You have had conversations without any sort of an agenda, right? And all you're doing is you're in your mind, you're going to be coaching them towards integrity. And when you start to see them get here on time, when you start to recognize the value and they start to recognize the value, you acknowledge it. And you say, I just wanted to let you know, I've noticed that 4 to 5 days you've gotten here on time. I know that there's things that are going on at home. You've got 3 kids that are taken up all the time. I just want to let you know I've seen the change that's taking place.
Yeah,
That level, I see you, right? Like, you have to be able to give with that level of intention, because in the moment that you say, yeah, but what about the person who keeps showing up 15 minutes late? You've just turned into the 15-year-old yourself. And now you're going to try to parent like a 15-year-old, which is quick fix, get it done. I don't have future casting. I don't know anything about what's going on next. It's just in that moment to be able to take the time to pause and ask, what do I need to do to create space so that this behavior has a chance of lessening and eventually going away?
Oh, it's so good, Joseph. And anybody that's listening to us right now, and you ever need to take a pause, you can pause your podcast player right now. You can always go to our show notes over at thesimplifiers.com, find all the resources we're talking about. But sometimes I think we as humans also need the pause for ourselves to like absorb all of that deep wisdom you just gave us, because it's huge. And I'm going to go even deeper with you right now, because I feel like this is such a pressing current event story. You've heard about it through all of this quarter, in particular, layoff after layoff after layoff at major corporations all around the world. And what happens is that, so many people have been laid off, but then there are what are called survivors, the people who stay, who happen to not get cut. What advice would you give to those people who've survived a layoff and are now picking the pieces up of culture or taking on more responsibilities? Like, where could empathy help them in that scenario?
So there's 3 circles that I want to share with you. The outside circle is the things that are out of our control. I don't know who came up with this analogy. I've read it before, but it's always pertinent as a reminder. So think about 3 concentric circles, okay? The outside circle is the things that are out of my control. 500 people at our organization got laid off. I can't control it. I remained. I can't control that. The stock market, I can't control that. Supply and demand, I can't control that. The weather, I can't control that. All of those things are out of our control. My direct superior's level of emotional capacity, I can't control that. The inside circle, the very inside circle, is the things and person I can control. I teach middle school kids. Well, I taught them, and now I teach adults who act like middle school kids. And it's the phrase that we tell them all the time. Who's the one person that you can control? Yourself. So you are going to give yourself a reminder. There's certain things that I can control in this moment. There are certain things that I'm going to be able to control in 5 minutes. In an hour, I'm going to be able to control. And I have the opportunity to respond or react. I have the opportunity to lean in or run away. I have the opportunity right now to take a breath or get flabbergasted and frustrated. So those are the 2 circles. But the middle circle is what's powerful. Mary, the middle circle, when I draw it, I like to think about it as a perforated line. It's a dotted line in the center. And that is the circle of influence.
Mm-hmm.
And who goes in that circle of influence? My coworkers, organizational culture, my direct superior, my customers, the people that I have touch points with. And then let's go deeper. My spouse, my children, my home environment, my mood, my environment, my spatial awareness all gets influenced depending on which way the arrows are going. If we're going from the outside in, all of those things that are in the circle of influence become affected by things that are out of my control. And then that center circle becomes bombarded. And when it becomes bombarded, we put up armor and then we forget. And then that control turns into this kind of control, something that is fear-based, and it's something that I can't control. So I'm going to armor up. But when we can go inside out and that center circle becomes perforated because we have inside out energy, you start to be able to identify what needs intention in this moment, what can take place right now, and who am I willing to influence in this moment so that we can have a ripple effect on the inside out.
It's a beautiful reframe. And how many times, raise your hand if you're listening to us right now, where you feel like the outside is crushing you, coming in, and that's of course why you armor up and become a prickly porcupine, because you're trying to protect yourself, right? Out of fear.
Yes, out of fear. And our empathic nature gets bombarded. And when our empathic nature gets bombarded, we put walls up, and then people start to say to us, you must not have any feeling. Oh my God, she's such a bee. I can't believe that you're doing this. I can't, all those things. And then that empathic nature in us goes, you don't even know what's going on if you only knew the things that were taking place. Yeah. But think about the energy that's being expended you don't even know. We're letting all the outside in become what takes place within our heart. And it gives us reason to armor up because we're so outside in focused.
Gosh, I've seen it 1,000 times before working with clients myself. I mean, we're middle management people who are considered problem children. Literally, that's the words that have been used about those senior directors. Like, these are adults who are, have this like huge wall up, who do not let people in because they've gotten hurt, because somebody has tore them down in some way. So this is their coping mechanism. This is their defense mechanism of how I operate in life and in work. And it breaks my heart. And I don't mean that in a pity way. I just genuinely, when you can step back out of the dumpster fire of that and having to work with that type of a person, and really like zoom out and see the perspective, it makes a lot more sense. But it's really hard to chip away at that wall. And I think that the tools and the advice you've given us has really given me a new framework to think about, well, how do I approach her differently on Monday? How do I just give a little bit more grace and help her? It's not me, it's her that has to remove the wall and bring it down and put the armor down, right? And see that there is a better way to work, a better way to, so you're not having to hit the Tums bottle on your desk every 2 hours, right?
Oh, Mary, I'd love to leave your listeners with 4 reflective questions that I ask myself.
Yes.
When I can't find that for myself, because you and I have talked a lot about what it looks like and even what it feels like. But if our listeners don't leave with reflective questions that I can ask myself when I fail the first 66 times, right? Yep. When I fail. So the first question I ask is, if this fails, it's 2-part, is, did I connect with this human in an authentic way? And if I didn't connect with this human in an authentic way, what do I need to do to reconnect with myself? Connection matters, whether it's with somebody else or with myself. The second question I ask is, was I really focused on the behavior, or was I focused on the accountability, either towards what's on the vision words on the wall, And even more importantly, am I holding myself accountable to my own values? And was I the mirror in that moment, or did I become this, right?
Mm.
The next question is, was I able to identify resistance? Was I even able to identify resistance? And if I identified it in them, was I also able to identify it within myself? Resistance. The resistance piece is what causes that fear to take place. So if you can just label it for what it is, it takes the power out of that resistance. Just being able to say, boy, there's resistance here. Is there also resistance within me? Do I need to hit the pause?
Mm-hmm.
And then the last question that I like to be able to ask myself is, was I really spending in a currency that had gain to them? Or was I spending in a currency that had more gain to me? And if the answer is the latter, I was likely offering sympathy, or I was likely coming in with compliance rather than creating the space for them. Because if you can shift with questions like that, what you're doing is you're giving yourself an opportunity to shift the outlook of the conversation rather than driving the outcome, rather than coming into it transactional, rather than having it perceived as manipulative. If our leaders who are listening today can look at those conversations and reframe them as, how can I fractionally shift the outcome in this moment? Not just the outcome, by looking at the outlook. How can I fractionally shift this person's outlook by creating just enough space? Boy, you have an opportunity to really, really see climate change, and climate change in every organization ultimately leads to cultural shifts.
It's huge. I mean, complete the sentence. These are your words. Your capacity to create space for others starts
with your capacity to create space for yourself.
It's about you first. You have to do that inner work on you first. Because I think the people that I have ever come in contact that were very highly armored, highly porcupiney types of people were always pointing the fingers out and not really taking that moment to think about and do the inner work.
That's hard to do. I mean, the inner work on every human being comes when it was designed to be started, right? I am not the determinant of when your inner work needs to begin, but you can guarantee that I'm going to do everything that I can along my journey of inner work to create the space for you to see the value of that inner work for yourself. And if that ends up being a better way
to work,
there is. And if that ends up being that you end up leaving my organization, but after you leave my organization in a fit of frustration, you landed at another organization, and then you leave that organization in a fit of frustration, and then you leave the next organization in a fit of frustration, that person who keeps leaving ultimately has to realize there's a common denominator, and it wasn't the organization. And I want for people who are in those moments to be able to say, who were the leaders who were able to still make impact so that I see the value? And if I'm able to have a former student reach out to me after 10 years and say, Mr. Cope, there were some people in my life who I remember, but there's some people who made me want to be a better person. Thank you. Those are the kind of relationships that we want to establish as leaders in our organizations.
It's everything. It's literally everything. And it changes the entire culture with one step. Joseph, this is literally why you're called the empathy guy. I'm just going to say it. You go to his website, empathyguy.com. You can find all the links to get connected with him through, again, the show notes, the simplifiers.com. Look for this episode. And I really encourage you, if you listeners out there are looking for somebody who's a dynamic speaker or collaborator on projects in this world, especially if you run an ERG, like an employee resource group, bring Joseph in to speak at your organization. The best way to get connected with him is on LinkedIn, which again, you can find that link in our show notes. And now I also heard, and we didn't have time to talk about it today, but you have a new merch line and it is very cool. We will have links in our show notes for that. You get 50%, 50% off of Empathy Guy merch just by using the code FIERCE50. And it's so cool there. So Joseph, we have a few questions as we wrap up that we'd like to ask everybody. And so grateful for your time and your wisdom. So amazing. Like lots of practical stuff you gave today. So thank you so much for that. First question is this. What's one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
The two books this year that I read that were life-changing were our two books here. One, if you want to read a book by Oprah Winfrey's life coach,
oh my God,
called The Way of Integrity. Oh, Martha Beck is incredible. And then both Martha Beck and another one of my favorite authors, Jen Sincero, refer to this book, which is Loving What Is by Byron Katie. 4 questions that are going to change your life. If you're interested in the self-work, if you're interested in that journey, if you're on the verge, one of these 2 books would do wonders for you to give you a chance.
So good. We will link both of those books up in the show notes, again, over at thesimplifiers.com. So tell me, who is one person, somebody you know personally in your network that you just feel is up to brilliant things? If we could shine a spotlight on them, who knows? One day, maybe we'll have them on the podcast. Who would that be?
So I would love to bring to light a recent podcaster who had me on her show, but her name is Erin Thompson. She is a up and coming speaker, and she has a history also, and she works in the senior care living space. Her podcast, Aspire for More, is wonderful, and it falls right along the lines of this personal development, personal growth. What can I do to become the best version of who I am to give to others? Erin Thompson and her podcast, Aspire for More, I can't recommend it enough. She was one of the first people to take a chance on me and have me on her podcast. Erin, go get them, girl.
I love it. I always love hearing new podcasts to me. That just adds straight to my queue. I'm listening to it while I'm at the gym next. So yeah, we'll link her up in the show notes for you guys as well. I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
I'm going to tell you, my gratitude is for the ability and the freedom to be able to choose. And it sounds almost kitschy, but to be able to choose for myself and stand in my choice, to be able to create the space that I need and have the answer to that without the shame of what does anybody else need from me in this moment. And it sounds ironic that the empathy guy is saying create space for myself and not have to worry about anybody else, but it starts with creating space for myself. I'm so grateful to have that within me and be able to do it.
Well, from one public speaker to another who does this as their full-time work, I want to just hold up that mirror to you because the work you're doing in the world is brilliant. And you are really a dynamic communicator and storyteller. And I see you doing incredible, amazing things. And I also heard a rumor that you've got a book coming out next summer, 2026 as well. So yeah. Can you tell me a little bit?
Could have given my shout out to my collaborator. But yes, in the new year, we are digging in and it should be available by the end of the summer. That's our target. End of summer 2026.
All right. My promise to you listeners is I'm going to bring Joseph back next year and we're going to talk about this book right when it releases. So yes, 1,000% yes.
Thank you, Mary. It has been such a pleasure being on with you today. I can't tell you the space that you create for your guests. We can feel it and I can feel it. So thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. My final question for you today is this. Someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and they are feeling like their boundaries have gotten busted at work, that they're on the verge of burnout, and things just feel like they're holding on by a thread. What's one thing you could say to them right now and whisper into their ear just to encourage them in this moment?
Close your eyes, breathe in, open your eyes, notice a color, and breathe out. What we just did was we disrupted the pattern of something that you do subconsciously and unconsciously. Sometimes just by identifying how I can break the pattern in something as simple as breathing gives me a chance to see the world a little bit differently in this moment, right now. Breathe in, open your eyes, notice a color, and breathe out.
Big love. Big, big love.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.